The stars shined bright above the dark side of Mars as the human exploration ship Odyssey 1 drifted in silent orbit. Inside the ship, Captain Arya Cole watched the radar screen with calm eyes. For 6 months, her crew had been scanning deep space signals. Tonight, something unusual appeared. A strange pulse, rhythmic and artificial, came from the edge of the solar system. It was not random noise. It was a pattern. Someone or something was trying to talk. The crew gathered around the main console. Dr. Ethan Park, the lead scientist, adjusted the signal filters. The pulse repeated again, forming a series of tones that almost sounded like words. Everyone felt a mix of fear and excitement. For the first time in history, humanity had received a message from another intelligent species. The room went silent as the translation software tried to decode the pattern. After a few minutes, a simple message appeared on the screen. "We come in peace." "Do you?" Captain Arya took a deep breath. The world had waited for this moment for centuries. She opened the communication channel and replied with steady words. "We come in peace. Welcome to our system." The signal went silent. For hours, there was no answer. Then a new radar contact appeared. A massive object was entering the system from deep space. The object was not a rock or debris. It was a ship bigger than any human vessel ever built. Its shape was smooth and silver, moving with perfect precision as the alien ship slowed near Jupiter. Humanity watched from every corner of Earth. News channels called it First Contact Day. Scientists cheered. But military leaders stayed alert. The aliens finally sent a second message, asking for a meeting with human representatives. The United Nations approved it. The chosen place was a neutral station orbiting Saturn. The world held its breath. Captain Arya and her crew were selected to represent Earth. Their ship, Odyssey 1, was prepared for the meeting. When the alien vessel arrived, it emitted a soft blue light that surrounded the station. A door opened, and tall, thin beings stepped out. Their skin was pale silver, their eyes dark and deep. They spoke through small, glowing devices on their chests. Their leader introduced himself as Varen of the Kether Collective. His voice was calm, his movements slow and graceful. At first, everything went smoothly. The Kether offered knowledge and peace. They said they had been watching humanity grow and wanted to share technology to help. Arya and her team felt cautious but hopeful. They believed this was the beginning of a new age. But as the talks continued, something began to feel wrong. Dr. Park noticed that the Kether devices were scanning the human crew without permission. Every time a human spoke, the aliens' eyes glowed faintly. The ship's systems started to lag, and some data files disappeared. When Arya confronted Varen about it, he simply smiled and said it was for mutual understanding. Arya did not trust that answer. She secretly ordered her engineer to check for any signal leaks. Hours later, the engineer found hidden code fragments inside the station's mainframe. The aliens were not just communicating. They were taking control of the system. Arya's heartbeat quickened. She turned off external communications and gathered her crew. Before they could act, the lights in the room flickered. The aliens stood still, their eyes glowing brighter. Varen stepped forward. "Humanity has been careless," he said. "You spread across the stars like a disease. We came not for peace, but to bring order." The words hit like a thunderclap. Arya reached for her sidearm, but it was too late. The Kether activated their devices, and waves of energy burst through the room. Several crew members fell unconscious instantly. Arya and Dr. Park managed to escape into a maintenance tunnel as alarms rang across the station. They watched from a small window as the alien ship sent beams of light into nearby satellites, disabling them one by one. Earth's defenses were blind. Humanity's first contact had turned into a silent invasion. Arya clenched her jaw, whispering through the noise. "They think we're weak," she said. "They're wrong." She looked at the stars outside and swore that this was not the end. It was only the beginning. Humanity had been attacked, betrayed in their first moment of hope, and soon the Kether would learn what it meant to make enemies of mankind. Smoke drifted through the narrow tunnels of the Saturn station as alarms. echoed in every corridor. Captain Arya Cole pressed her back against the cold metal wall, her pistol shaking slightly in her hand. Dr. Ethan Park crouched beside her, his face pale but focused. They could hear heavy footsteps above them, not human. The Kether were moving through the station, searching for survivors. "We can't stay here," Ethan whispered. "They're scanning every section." Arya nodded. "We need to reach the escape pods before they shut down everything." The emergency lights flickered, painting the walls in red flashes. Each sound felt louder than it should. As they moved quietly through the dark tunnel, Arya remembered the hopeful faces back on Earth. The leaders, the scientists, the people cheering for peace. All of it had been a lie. The Kether had come not to share knowledge, but to conquer. They reached the control deck for the lower hangar. Most systems were dead, but one terminal still showed power. Ethan rushed to it, typing fast. "If I can break their link to the station core, we might get one pod out." Arya kept watch at the door. The air vibrated with a strange hum. She knew they didn't have much time. Suddenly, a shadow moved near the doorway. A tall, silver-skinned figure stepped into view, its dark eyes glowing faintly. It spoke in that same calm tone, but now it sounded cruel. "You cannot escape. Humanity's time is over." Arya didn't wait. She fired twice. The bullets hit the alien's chest, but instead of falling, the Kether raised a hand. A pulse of blue energy hit the wall beside her, throwing her backward. Ethan grabbed her arm and pulled her behind a console. Sparks flew across the room. "I've almost got it," Ethan shouted. His hands moved fast, bypassing security locks. "Just a few more seconds." Arya peeked out and fired again, this time aiming at the glowing device on the alien's chest. The device shattered with a burst of light. The Kether froze, its eyes dimmed, and it collapsed to the floor. Arya took a breath, her ears ringing. Ethan hit one final command. "Got it?" "The escape pods are online." They ran through the corridor, smoke swirling around them. In the distance, they could see other human crew members running survivors. Together, they reached the hangar bay. The massive alien ship outside loomed like a silver storm cloud, beams of light still firing into the station. "Go," Arya shouted, helping the others climb into the pods. "Get to Earth. Tell them what happened." Ethan hesitated. "What about you?" "I'll hold them off. Someone has to make sure they don't follow us." Before he could argue, the hangar doors shook. Another explosion rocked the station. Arya pushed Ethan into the pod and slammed the hatch. The pods launched one by one, streaks of fire against the dark of space. Arya turned back toward the corridor. The Kether were coming again, their steps echoing like metal drums. She ran to the control deck and opened a manual override. The system warned her. "Core overload in progress." She smiled grimly. "Good," she whispered. "Let's give them a proper welcome to humanity." As she activated the countdown, the Kether leader Varin appeared on the holographic screen. His expression was unreadable. "You think sacrifice will save you?" he said softly. "You are ants fighting a storm." Adorea stared back at him, fire in her eyes. "Maybe, but ants bite." She cut the transmission and sprinted toward the escape hatch. The station shook harder, lights dying one by one. She climbed into a maintenance capsule just as the core reached critical. Through the small window, she saw the alien ship pulling back. Then the entire station erupted in a brilliant flash. Fragments of metal and fire spreading across Saturn's orbit, her capsule spun wildly before stabilizing. She gasped for air and looked at the stars. Somewhere ahead, she saw the trail of escape pods heading toward Earth. She hoped Ethan had survived. Hours later, as her capsule drifted in silence, a faint message played through the radio, Ethan's voice. "This is Dr. Park. We made it to the moon outpost. Earth Command is preparing for war." Arya closed her eyes, relief mixed with rage. "Then it's not over," she whispered. "This time, they'll see what humans are made of." Far behind her, the wreckage of the station floated like a graveyard, and the Kether ships regrouped in the shadows. The war for humanity's survival had begun. The moon outpost was never meant to be a battlefield. It was built for science and mining, not war. But now, Every corridor buzzed with soldiers, engineers, and frightened civilians. The survivors from the Saturn station had arrived 2 days ago, bringing the terrible news Earth was no longer safe. The Kether invasion had begun. Dr. Ethan Park stood in the main command center, exhausted but determined. His face was marked with dust and worry. The holographic screen showed multiple alien signals moving toward Mars and Earth's orbit. Humanity was outnumbered and outgunned. The alien ships were faster, stronger, and shielded with unknown technology. Still, humans refused to give up. Captain Arya Cole's capsule had been recovered hours earlier. She was injured but alive. When she entered the command room, the soldiers stood straight. Her name had already become a symbol of resistance. The woman who had fought the aliens and survived. Ethan turned as she stepped in. "You shouldn't be up yet," he said softly. Arya smiled faintly. "You know I don't listen well." She looked at the hologram, her jaw tightening. "How bad is it?" "Worse than we thought. They've taken control of several communication satellites. We're blind in some sectors. Earth's governments are panicking." Arya walked closer to the display, her eyes narrowing at the largest alien formation. "They're not just attacking. They're testing us." "Learning how we respond?" Ethan nodded. "Then what do we do?" Arya's voice hardened. "We stop reacting. We strike first." The room went silent. Everyone stared at her. Humans had never fought aliens before. It was madness, but it was also their only chance. Arya continued, her tone sharp and confident. "The Kether believe we're weak. They think our fear will keep us quiet. We'll show them what fear really feels like." Within hours, the moon outpost transformed into a command hub. Old mining drones were refitted into attack ships. Engineers worked non-stop, adding pulse cannons and plasma shields. The humans called the operation Project Phoenix, a name chosen by Arya herself. Days later, the first human counterattack began. A small fleet of 30 ships launched from the moon, heading toward the asteroid belt. Their goal was to intercept one of the Kether relay ships, the same ship sending commands to their entire fleet. Destroying it could cripple their communication. Arya led the mission aboard the newly armed Odyssey II. As the ships moved through the darkness, she spoke to her crew. "We're not fighting for victory today. We're fighting to remind them that we exist. We fight for every city they threaten, every life they tried to erase." Ethan sat at the science console, monitoring readings. "I've locked onto the alien signal. They're close." Moments later, the massive Kether ship appeared from behind an asteroid. Its hull shimmered like liquid metal, and strange energy waves rippled across it. The human fleet spread out, silent in the void. Arya's voice echoed through the comms. "All ships, target their command core. Fire on my mark." For a moment, there was peace, the kind that exists just before chaos. Then Arya shouted, "Mark." Dozens of missiles launched, streaking across space like falling stars. They hit the alien shields, causing bright flashes. The Kether ship turned, returning fire. Blue plasma bolts tore through the void, destroying 2 human ships instantly. But the humans didn't stop, Ethan shouted. "Their shields are dropping." Arya leaned forward. "Focus fire on the core." Another wave of missiles hit. The alien ship shuddered. Sparks of white light burst from its surface. Then, suddenly, silence. The massive vessel cracked apart, its glowing core exploding in a storm of energy. The shockwave rippled through the area, shaking even Arya's ship. Cheers filled the human channels. For the first time, they had destroyed a Kether warship. Humanity had struck back, but Arya didn't celebrate. She stared at the wreckage, her heart heavy. "This is just one ship," she whispered. "They'll come harder now." Back on the Kether flagship, deep in the black void beyond Neptune, Varen watched the destruction through his control sphere. His cold expression didn't change, but the dark energy around him pulsed. "So," he murmured, "the humans fight." He turned to his second-in-command, his tone sharp. "Then, we stop playing. Prepare the cleansing fleet. Burn their world." The stars outside the Kether vessel glowed faintly red, as if warning of what was coming. Far away, Arya stood in silence, looking toward Earth. She knew the next battle would decide everything. Humanity had taken its first step into war, and there was no turning back. The skies above Earth burned with streaks of fire. What had once been peaceful orbits now raged with chaos. Dozens of alien ships entered the atmosphere, their metallic bodies glowing blue against the clouds. Cities across the planet watched in horror as the invasion began. Humanity's first war with an alien race had come home, in orbit. Captain Arya Cole stood on the bridge of Odyssey 2, her face calm but her eyes full of steel. The ship trembled as it entered Earth's defense grid. Below her, the surface glowed with flashes of light explosions, anti-air weapons, and the desperate efforts of Earth's armies trying to fight back. Dr. Ethan Park's voice came through the intercom. The Kether fleet is moving in formation. They're targeting major power centers: New York, Beijing, London, and Geneva. Arya's jaw tightened. They're going after command and communication. They want to break our coordination. The human defense fleet, though smaller, was fighting fiercely. Dozens of ships, built in a hurry over the past weeks, filled the skies. They weren't as advanced as the Kether, but human pilots had something machines could never copy: emotion, anger, and the will to survive. Arya's ship broke through the upper atmosphere, heading straight for the largest Kether vessel, a massive warship floating over the Atlantic. Its shape looked like a dark blade cutting through the clouds. The Kether leader Varen was aboard that ship. This was the moment Arya had been waiting for. "Ethan," she said, "lock onto the flagship. We end this today." Ethan hesitated. "Arya, that ship's energy output is off the charts. It could destroy us in one shot." "I know," she said quietly. "But if we don't stop it, Earth falls." The Odyssey 2 charged forward. Plasma beams from the Kether ships lit the sky, tearing through several human vessels. Still, the fleet held its ground, fighting with everything they had. In the middle of the chaos, Arya's voice came through all channels. "This is Captain Arya Cole. Every soldier, every pilot, hold the line. Humanity doesn't bow. Not today, not ever." Her words echoed through the comms, fueling the courage of thousands. Fighter pilots shouted in defiance. Ground forces cheered as they pushed back alien drones. For the first time, the Kether met resistance they hadn't expected. Inside the alien flagship, Varen watched the battle unfold. His calm mask cracked slightly as he saw the humans refusing to fall. "They fight with no logic," he said to his aides. "Their technology is weak, but their chaos gives them strength. This cannot continue." He raised his hand, and a sphere of blue light formed in the center of the command hall. "Prepare the singularity cannon," he ordered. "Erase their fleet." Back on Odyssey 2, alarms blared. "Energy surge detected," Ethan shouted. "They're charging some kind of super weapon." Arya didn't blink. "Then we stop them before they fire." She pushed the throttle forward. The ship roared as it sped toward the Kether flagship. The crew braced themselves. Human fighters flew alongside her, creating a shield of courage around their leader. They weaved through plasma fire, explosions lighting the clouds. "Target their core," Arya commanded. "All ships, on my mark now." Missiles streaked across the sky, hitting the alien hull. Blue flames burst outward, tearing sections apart, but the Kether weapon still powered up. The sky above the Atlantic turned white. Ethan shouted, "It's about to fire." Arya stared at the blinding light. "Not yet," she whispered. She flipped a switch on her console. "All power to forward thrusters." We rammed the core. The crew froze. "Arya, no, do it," she said. "For Earth." The ship's engine screamed as Odyssey 2 dived straight toward the Kether flagship. Enemy fire tore into its hull, but it kept moving. Flames burst inside the bridge, panels cracked, and warning lights flared red. Still, Arya stayed focused, her hands steady on the controls at the last second. Ethan triggered the emergency escape pods for the remaining crew. "You're not dying alone," he said through the radio. "I'm staying with you." Arya smiled faintly. "You always were stubborn, The Odyssey 2 struck the alien warship's core at full speed. The impact unleashed a massive explosion that lit the sky like a new sun. The Singularity cannon collapsed before it could fire. A shockwave spread through the clouds, knocking out alien systems across the fleet. From the ground, people looked up and saw the burning wreck of the alien ship falling into the ocean. The cheering started small, then grew louder. Humanity had survived, at least for now, but in the dark void beyond the moon. Several more Kether ships emerged from hyperspace. Their lights burned brighter than before. The war was far from over. Ethan's last transmission echoed. Through the human networks, "This is Dr. Park. The flagship is down. Captain Cole. She saved us all. But the Kether are regrouping. Prepare for the next wave." On Earth, every survivor knew this was not the end of the war. This was only the beginning of revenge. The world mourned, but it also burned with new fire. The sacrifice of Captain Arya Cole became the spark that united all of humanity. For the first time in history, every nation, every colony, and every orbital station stood together under one banner, the Human Defense Alliance. Across the planet, people whispered her name with pride. Arya had become more than a soldier. She was a legend. Dr. Ethan Park survived the explosion, though no one understood how. His escape pod was found drifting near the coast of Greenland, half buried in ice. He woke in a medical base days later, his body weak, but his mind sharp as ever. As soon as he opened his eyes, the first thing he said was, "Did we win?" The nurse smiled faintly. "You bought us time." Ethan sat up slowly. Outside the window, he could see the rebuilt skies filled with human ships. Engineers worked around the clock to repair the orbital defenses. Scientists studied every fragment of Kether technology recovered from the ocean. For once, humanity wasn't just surviving, it was learning. Within weeks, Earth had a new leader, General Marcus Kane, a man known for his cold discipline and impossible victories. He stood before the United Council, his voice deep and commanding. "The Kether believe we are broken," he said. "They are wrong. We will take the fight to them. We will bring this war to their doorstep." Ethan joined Kane's War Council, bringing with him the research he and Arya had gathered. The Kether's technology was advanced but not invincible. Their ships used organic power cores that reacted violently to human-made EMP weapons. The first prototypes of hybrid ships built from both human and Kether parts were soon under construction. The flagship of this new fleet was named the Phoenix, in honor of Arya Cole. The day it launched, the skies trembled. It was larger than any human vessel before it, armed with weapons capable of tearing through alien shields. Ethan stood on the bridge, staring at the stars ahead. "Arya," he whispered, "this is for you." Meanwhile, far beyond Neptune, the Kether were not idle. Inside their main command ship, Varen stood in the center of a glowing chamber. Around him, energy pulsed, like living fire. His expression was darker now, his calm voice edged with fury. "They destroyed my fleet," he said quietly. "They defied the collective." His second-in-command bowed. "We underestimated them." Varen's eyes burned blue. "No, we underestimated their hatred. Prepare the wormhole gate. If humans wish to bring war, we will welcome them." The Kether began constructing a massive gateway, a portal that would allow them to invade in full force. What they didn't know was that humans had already discovered its signal. Ethan and his team tracked the energy pulse to a distant region beyond. Pluto, that's where humanity would strike next. General Kane stood before the troops in the lunar hangar. Thousands of soldiers, pilots, and engineers listened in silence as he spoke. This is not a mission of exploration. This is not a rescue. This is vengeance. For the cities they've burned. For the lives they took. For Captain Cole. The soldiers roared in unison, their voices echoing across the hangar. Hours later, the Phoenix led a fleet of 200 ships into the dark. They passed Mars, then Jupiter, then the black edge of the solar system. There, in the distance, they saw it, the Kether Gate, a massive ring of light surrounded by alien ships, glowing like a wound in space. Ethan stared at it through the main viewport. That's their doorway, he said quietly. We destroy it, and we end this war before it begins. General Kane's voice came through the intercom. All units, prepare for engagement. This is humanity's stand. The engines roared. The fleet moved forward. Fighters launched like swarms of fireflies, filling the void with trails of light. The first explosions flashed across the darkness as the battle began. Kether's ships emerged from the gate, firing energy beams that cut through several human vessels. But the Phoenix didn't stop. Its new hybrid weapons fired golden bolts that tore through alien armor. Human pilots fought with raw fury using tactics no machine could predict. Ethan watched the readings on his screen. Their shields are dropping, he said. We're actually winning. But then, the gate began to change. The center glowed brighter, twisting like a storm. From within it, something massive started to emerge, larger than any ship seen before. The sensors screamed warnings. Kane's face hardened. That's not a ship, he said. It's a world engine. The Kether had brought their final weapon. A planet-sized war machine, capable of destroying entire worlds. The light from it bathed the human fleet in ghostly blue. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. If that thing reaches Earth... Kane interrupted, his voice calm but deadly. Then Earth will burn. He looked out the window toward the glowing giant and said quietly, Not while we still draw breath. The human fleet reformed, pushing toward the massive engine as the stars trembled. The final battle was coming, one that would decide the future of both species. The void was alive with fire. The human fleet clashed with the Kether armada in the dark space beyond Pluto, where sunlight barely reached. Explosions flickered like dying stars as ships from both sides fell into silence. In the center of it all, the Kether's world engine loomed, a colossal sphere of living metal, surrounded by arcs of blue lightning. Its core pulsed like a heart, drawing energy from the wormhole behind it. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Dr. Ethan Park gripped the console as the ship trembled from another hit. Sparks rained down, alarms blaring in every direction. Shields at 20%, shouted the tactical officer. Ethan wiped the blood from his forehead and leaned over the display. The world engine's readings were unlike anything they had seen. Its energy output could vaporize Earth in a single blast. If that thing activates, we lose everything, he said. General Kane stood tall, his voice calm even amid chaos. Then we take it down, no matter the cost. The human fleet rallied, waves of fighters darting between beams of blue fire. Missiles struck the Kether's smaller escorts, breaking their formation. For every human ship destroyed, 2 more pushed forward. But the world engine shields were too strong, nothing broke through. Suddenly, a transmission cut through the noise. It wasn't human. The voice was calm, distant, and achingly familiar. This is Captain Arya Cole. If anyone can hear this, do not fire on the core. There's another way. Ethan froze. His heart skipped a beat. Arya, he whispered. Static filled the air, but the voice continued. The Kether took me. I'm inside the world engine. They're using my mind to control it. If you destroy the core, I die. But so does any chance of stopping the wormhole. You have to cut me free. Kane's eyes widened. She's alive? Ethan nodded slowly. Somehow, they merged her consciousness into their system. She's part of it now. The bridge fell silent as Arya's faint voice came again, mixed with pain and static. I can hold them back. For a little while, but you have to reach me. Ethan turned to Kane. We have to board it. If we can break her link, the engine might shut down. Kane gave a single nod. Take a squad and go. I'll keep the fleet busy. Minutes later, a small strike team launched from the Phoenix in a stealth shuttle. They flew through the wreckage and debris, weaving between burning ships. As they neared the world engine, massive tendrils of metal twisted from its surface like living vines. The shuttle dodged one, then another. Before finding a gap, a glowing tunnel that led inside, the interior of the alien machine was like a nightmare. Walls pulsed with blue veins of energy, and the air shimmered with heat. The team moved cautiously, weapons ready. Ethan led them deeper, guided by Arya's voice echoing through the comms. This way. Follow the light. They reached a massive chamber where a glowing core hung suspended in the air. And there, inside a cage of energy, was Arya. Her body was partially covered in silver armor, wires running from her chest into the walls. Her eyes opened slowly as Ethan approached. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice soft but strong. "You shouldn't have come." He shook his head. "I told you once I don't listen well." Behind them, the walls shook. Varen appeared, his silver form glowing brighter than ever. "You humans never learn," he said. "You fight even when defeat is certain. She belongs to us now. Through her, we will burn your world." Arya's eyes narrowed. "No, not anymore." Ethan raised his weapon, but Varen lifted his hand. Blue energy burst from his palm, knocking Ethan to the ground. "You are weak," Varen hissed. Arya screamed, her body glowing with white light. The cables around her snapped. The core pulsed violently as she broke free. Her voice echoed across the chamber. "You made one mistake, Varen. You gave me control." The energy field exploded outward, throwing Varen across the room. Ethan stumbled to his feet as Arya floated free, surrounded by blinding light. She reached out her hand, and the entire chamber began to shake. "Get out, Ethan," she said calmly. "I can shut it down, but I have to stay." He shook his head, tears in his eyes. "There has to be another way." "There isn't," she said softly. "Tell them. Tell them humanity never gave up." Ethan hesitated, then saluted her one last time before running back to the shuttle. As they escaped, the world engine began to implode. Blue light poured from its cracks, spreading across space like a sunrise from the phoenix. General Kane watched in silence as the massive structure collapsed in on itself. Then, with a final flash, it vanished, taking the wormhole and the Kether fleet with it. Static filled the radio before a single voice came through Arya's. Faint but steady. "It's over. Humanity is free." The signal faded, leaving only the stars. Back on Earth. The people looked up at the sky and saw the faint glow of the explosion. There were no more alien ships, no more attacks. The war was finally over. Months later, Ethan stood before a memorial on the moon, a statue of Arya Cole, facing the stars. He placed his hand on the cold metal and whispered, "You saved us all." A soft breeze moved through the dome, and for a moment he thought he heard her voice again, calm and proud. "Keep fighting, Ethan. Humanity's story is just beginning." He smiled, looking out at the endless stars. The war was over, but the universe was waiting, and humanity was ready to rise.